The SIPSI is a motorized device intended to help infants with developmental delays learn how to crawl, help them move forward in their developmental milestone timeline. Over the past 7 years, Dr. Tubi Kalobi and her partner, Dr. Peter Pidco of Virginia Commonwealth University, have been doing intensive research with this device. And at the beginning of the semester, our team was brought on to help commercialize that device, help bring it into the homes of the 50,000 children with developmental delays that are born in the US each and every year. Today, we're excited to tell you about Dr. Peter Pidco and Dr. Tubi Kalobi's research and how our research and work this semester can help move that forward. My name is Andy Atkin, and I'm a management communications major from Louisville, Kentucky.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Nikki Bray. I'm an aviation and environmental science junior from Oklahoma City.
Hi, I'm Evan Fry. I'm a biochemistry and economics sophomore from Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Hello, my name is Zach Mason. I'm a finance senior from Yukon, Oklahoma.
The clicker is not working.
Oh, gracious. Okay.
We enjoy dramatic pauses.
I'm just going to switch it for a second.
Okay. Yeah, I'll put the clicker. I got it.
All right. Going back old school. All right. For a typically developing infant, their developmental timeline looks much like the one that you see before you. They move fairly quickly through crawling, walking, running. But for the 50,000 children with developmental delays that are born each year, their development timeline looks more like this. They struggle to reach those milestones and may never reach some of the later milestones, such as walking and running. This infant only grows as the children get older. But if we can address these challenges at an early age, address the problem specifically of walking, then we can help decrease the gap between these infants and their able-bodied peers. Moving forward, these children face physical challenges, including problems with muscle development, challenges lifting their head and neck, a lack of coordination, and an inability to move their limbs in a fashion that corresponds with the messages being sent by their brains. Physical challenges lead to further sensory challenges as these children move forward. Because the messages that are being sent from these children's brains to their limbs are not being properly received, they experience what is known as learned disuse. Ultimately, the brain stops sending those messages to the limbs, so the children stop trying to send those messages. Over time, that in turn leads to neural atrophy, in which the neural pathways cease to function. All of these challenges combine to create an infant that is unable to interact with his or her environment. These children face problems with spatial reasoning and communication skills, where typically developing infants would learn those abilities by interacting with their environment through crawling, through touching, through trying to babble. But if we can address these physical challenges, we can address some of the sensory challenges because these are compounding challenges. And if we can address them at an early enough age, we can help these infants to move forward. If physical therapy happens, and physical therapy happens at an early age, and it uses the correct comprehensive therapy, then we can help decrease the gap between these infants and their able-bodied peers. Comprehensive therapy means that these children's physical and sensory challenges are all being addressed, and they're being addressed at the crawling stage. So current therapy is working, but it's not working at the level that we would like it to. So as we move forward, Nikki is here to explain to you what current therapy methods include and how the self-initiated prone progression crawler can improve them.
Thank you, Andy. Okay, so let's take a look at what treatment options are currently available for a child who has a developmental delay. One option is the use of traditional physical therapy. Traditional PT works when a child is placed on a therapist's lap, and the therapist manipulates the child's arms and legs in a crawling motion. Another option is through the use of a manual crawler. A manual crawler is a device that supports a child, giving them room to crawl. And finally, a third option comes from the use of a powered mobility device. These devices generally use robotics to help a child explore his or her environment. We've set aside 3 key metrics to help determine how effective these devices are. The first is early therapy, meaning how soon can a child begin using this therapy in order to help minimize the amount of learned disuse they obtain because of their developmental delay. The next is physical development, meaning is the child going to get positive muscular growth from using this therapy? And finally, environmental interaction, meaning is the child going to receive both cognitive and sensory perception development, thereby stimulating those neural pathways through the use of this therapy. In looking at traditional physical therapy, we see that it doesn't offer a child environmental interaction. This is because a child working with a therapist on their lap is in a stationary manner, not exploring their environment, receiving stimuli from outside. When looking at manual crawlers, it doesn't offer an early therapy option for the child. This is because most crawlers are designed too largely for infants to use. Therefore, the child must wait until they can begin using them and therefore they potentially obtain more learned disuse from their developmental delay. And finally, with powered mobility devices, we see that the child's not receiving any physical development. That's because with most of these devices, a child's being driven around by the device rather than moving under his or her own motor skills. So what is there for these children? We have the self-initiated prone progression crawler, also known as SIPSI. SIPSI gives the child both early therapy as well as physical development, and doing this combines environmental interaction with this therapy. SIPSI is a proactive solution for children. This means that a child can begin using SIPSI before he or she is actually diagnosed with a developmental delay. They only need to be suspected of a developmental delay. In doing this, SIPSI allows a child to crawl as early as 4 months. And as this begins, a child can crawl up to 33% sooner, as shown by our current research data. So let's get a closer look at what's gone into SIPSI so far. The inventors for our device are Dr. Tubi Kalobi at OU's Health Science Center. The other inventor is Peter Pitko from Virginia Commonwealth University. Together, over the past 7 years, the pair performed over $500,000 worth of research with the device, giving them promising results, several publications, as well as, and more importantly, a United States patent which is currently on file and an international patent, meaning the intellectual property behind SIPSI is protected. So let's get a closer look at the technology behind SIPSI. SIPSI helps a child by giving them through adaptive response using sensory input. This is obtained through a series of load cells located beneath a child, which detect how a child is shifting his or her weight on a force plate. Another way to obtain this data is through the use of wheels. The wheels detect how far a child has traveled, what distance the child, or what direction a child has traveled, and what speed they've traveled. In addition to these, there is an accelerometer suit. The accelerometer suit is available for children who have specifically minimal motor control skills. This means those children who couldn't otherwise move the board under their own power can move their arm. The accelerometer suit will detect this movement, and then the SIPSI will give them positive reinforcement. In all, the device reacts as a child attempts to move and then gives the child a boost in that direction. Together, these three input methods work with software developed by Dr. Pitko to give positive research results, which both validate SIPSI and give positive validation for the insurance purposes. So let's take a look at the market that SIPSI will be entering. The teams determined that there are about 185 physical therapists in the United States. However, we decided to refine that number to one that would be more specific to those therapists who will be working with our device specifically. So doing extensive research to all 50 United States, we determined that there are about 11,000 early intervention physical therapists in the US. An early intervention therapist is one who works with a child from birth to about 3 years of age, and generally specializes in children who have a developmental delay. At some point in these children's lives, they're going to visit one of these early intervention therapists to seek physical therapy. There they can use SIPSI in the office. At the same time, these children of the 100,000 families in the United States who have these 100,000 families in the US who have a child with a developmental delay can be using SIPSI in their own home. Together, these numbers combine to give a total end-user amount of 111,000 people. And when this is multiplied by a pricing point of $1,250, you see a market potential of $138 million. However, SIPSI's got a few steps it needs to progress through before it can enter this market. And so Evan is here to tell you about this.
Thank you, Nikki. We are really excited about the potential to reach these infants and about the market that we'll have the ability to have access to. But as he mentioned, there's a little bit of additional development that needs to go into it, and it can be divided into two different streams. First, technological development, which deals with refining the SIPSI so that it's able to be at a stage where it can be put on the shelves and sold to physical therapists. And the other, business model development, determining our exact strategy for reaching these physical therapists and families. Let's look at each of those in turn, beginning with technological development. Click again. We can start with product design. How exactly are we going to engineer the SIPSI so that it's market ready? The SIPSI, after looking at it, analyzing the technology, and talking to players in the industry, the team decided on two separate development paths for different components of the technology. One, dealing with the physical SIPSI board on which the infants lie, and the other, the accelerometer suit, which contains the sensors that monitor infant limb movement. Regarding the SIPSI board, the team recommends researchers move forward towards commercializing that technology. This is through talking with physical therapists and also medical device manufacturers who are incredibly excited about the SIPSI and its ability to reach developmentally delayed infants who currently do not have treatment methods. In order to move towards commercialization, we recommend researchers look into improving the customizability of the SIPC so that it's able to be used by a wider cross-section of infants, and also by improving the motorized feedback that's given through the software so that it's in a more effective therapy treatment. Regarding the accelerometer suit, early research suggests that this will be a vital component to incorporate later with the SIPC. However, its level of development is not ready for it to be commercialized along with the board, so we recommend a continued path of research. This will involve, first of all, protecting the intellectual property. The accelerometer suit is an outgrowth of the larger SIPC in general, and its product may not be protected by the IP that protects the SIPC. Also, there's a necessity to reduce the cost of the accelerometer suit. This is because the component cost of the accelerometer suit right now is too high for us to price it at our current pricing point with the rest of the board. In addition to this, there's also necessary for it to be validated through academic research so that it's able to be proved to the medical community. And there's two main streams that the team recommends researchers pursue. One, dealing with electroencephalography technology, or EEG. This will allow researchers to determine the electrical impulses in the brains of infants as they're interacting with the SIPC. This will show the long-term benefits of using the SIPC as it fundamentally changes the structure of these infants' brains, allowing them to acquire not only the skills of crawling, but other skills later in life. The other metric that the team recommends researchers pursue is broadening their research base. That is, testing the SIPC on a greater number of infants by partnering with physical therapists. The CCEW team has begun work on this by establishing a partnership with the J.D. McCarty Center, a local children's hospital here in Norman. These partnerships will allow researchers to explore other areas of treatment as they see other types of infants that may be good candidates for SIPC use, and it will also ensure the universality of the SIPC, that it's an appropriate treatment method for a wide range of infants. In order for us to continue with this development, there's some necessary funding which must first be in place. Funding right now is currently through a National Institutes of Health grant on the order of $500,000. We plan on continuing to be funded through a renewal of this grant on the order of around $2 million, and also by a National Science Foundation grant, which Dr. Kolobi and engineers at the University of Oklahoma recently applied for. Due to the revolutionary nature of the SIPC, positive initial research results, and due diligence on the part of our researchers, we're confident that the SIPC will be funded to encourage this continued development. So this describes some of the technical development that needs to occur in order for the SIPC to make it to market. Zach's next going to show CCEW's recommended business model in order to access these therapists and families.
Thank you, Evan. Before we start to look specifically at the business model, it's important to understand the value chain of the industry SIPC will be entering. When you look at the value chain, there's really three key players. You have the entity that will manufacture and sell SIPC, the physical therapist that will provide care, and finally the infants that will be receiving that care. When looking at the entity that will manufacture and sell SIPC, it's important to make sure that they're able to minimize production costs. The team suggests the university pursues this by economies of scale. This can be a difficult process because these physical therapists are going to require one-on-one interaction with not only the product, but also with the sales representative to understand exactly how it works. In order to establish these relationships, the university will need to have large distribution channels. Once physical therapists have established or have SIPC in their practice, they can then start providing care to these families. After a few weeks, these infants will benefit from additional use of SIPC outside of the once a week the physical therapist will be in the home. At that point, they'll have the opportunity to buy or rent their own SIPC directly from the manufacturer. This creates a little bit of a complexity. Most of these infants will be renting SIPC rather than purchasing it. This means that there will have to be a strong inventory management policy already in place with this company. So the team has identified three things that the university needs to pursue when considering a business model. The best way to establish all these metrics is for the university to go through and establish manufacturer and create a licensing agreement with them. How exactly does that process look? Well, it's 3 steps. First, the university needs to identify potential partners, structure licensing agreements with each of those, then select one and allow them to bring it to market. When looking for potential partners, it's important for the university to look at the metrics we established on the previous slide. Once they've found a significant amount of potential licensing partners, they can then start talking with those partners and structuring potential agreements with them. There's many things for the university to consider, but the 2 most important ones are the royalty rate and milestones to be established. The team has been doing research in both of these. SIPC should expect to receive approximately 8 to 12% royalty rate based on gross revenue. This was done through talking with manufacturers and establishing what kind of royalty rate really works with what development technology is in. Additionally, the university will need to establish milestones. These will be revenue points that the manufacturer must meet in order to retain SIPC. After the university has collected a significant amount of potential agreements, they can select which agreement they would like to move forward with. This company can then start producing SIPC. First thing that will have to happen is this manufacturer will go down the FDA pathway. When looking at this, the team has found that SIPC will either be a Class 1 or a Class 2 medical device, depending on the medical claims that the manufacturer would like to make regarding SIPC. After the manufacturer has gone the FDA pathway that they feel is the best fit for them, they can then start producing SIPC and selling it to physical therapists. The team has done research into the initial pricing point as well as the market share percentage that SIPC should expect to capture. SIPC should be expected to be priced at $1,250. This was based on talking with physical therapists from across the nation on a similar scale to what these manufacturers will be doing to create their own pricing points. Additionally, SIPC should capture approximately 5% of the market, growing at 10% each year after. So this entire process should be concluded by the end of year 2013. And we've actually started this process ourselves. The team has started talking with potential licensing partners, and we actually in this second stage with one of the largest manufacturers in the industry, and we're going to be talking with their top level executives a little on later this week to really understand if they're a good fit for the university and if SIPC is a good fit for their portfolio. So we should be able to enter the market at the end of year 2013, and by the end of year 2014, the university should experience $530,000 in royalty income to be split evenly among the two universities involved, the University of Oklahoma and Virginia Commonwealth University. This number will increase to the end of year 2018 to be $780,000 in royalty income. To put that in perspective, that's $3,250,000 over 5 years, but more importantly, that's 36,100 infants that will have significantly better quality of life due to the commercialization of SIPC. So as you can tell, the team is very excited about the financial and social implications of commercializing SIPC. And Andy is here to explain exactly what the university must do in the coming years to make sure this happens.
Okay, so we've kind of thrown a lot of information at you, but all of that coalesces into this plan. By 2014, we anticipate being fully funded through an NIH and an NSF grant. All of that funding will enable us to continue our research, including engineering the SIPC in a suit, beginning EEG research, and broadening our research base. While all of that is happening, we'll be pursuing a licensing path to include evaluation of partners to be concluded by 2012, pursuance of the FDA pathway, and commercialization of the device by 2014. Ultimately, we have 3 recommendations for the university as they move forward, to include engineering of the SIPC in suit, which will include tailoring to the PT preferences that our team has developed through our market research. We contacted PTs in all 50 states, and we've gotten a lot of really valuable feedback, so we'll be moving forward with that feedback to make sure that the device meets the requirements of all of the PTs that will be using it. Additionally, we recommend that they seek IP protection for the suit, as we outlined earlier. Furthermore, broadening the research base, building on the established partnerships that our team has put together along with Dr. Tubi Kolobi, including the JDMC Center here in Norman. And finally, recruiting through the APTA newsletter, which should be voted on by the APTA later this month. That will disseminate our research and our study further so that we can continue to refine the SIPC. Our last recommendation is evaluation of partnerships, following up with the existing leads, including the manufacturer that we'll be talking with later this week, and exploring additional partnerships with Virginia Commonwealth's marketing firm, Tremonti. So what all of this means is that we have the potential to make a fundamental change in the lives of 36,100 infants with developmental delays over the course of the next 5 years. Our plan just explains how to do that. At this point, we're really excited to take any questions that you might have about how we're moving forward with the device, and thank you for your time.